Hello, good morning, good afternoon. Let me just get that message off screen. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It is Sunday night and it is time for another live stream. Now, I was sitting here earlier thinking, what am I going to talk about tonight? Because I don't script these things, I'll be honest, and I was talking to the great Sean at Gigsvana the other day, and genuinely, the subjects that I'm going to talk about, I think about as I'm writing the title for the live stream. And for those of you who are here regularly enough will know that's usually anywhere between an hour and 2 hours before. And whilst I try to remember things that have happened in the week, it isn't always the case. However, and I'm sitting here tonight thinking, what has actually happened this week? And I just realised it has been a very busy week, but it feels like a long one. Because I almost missed the fact that, yes, last Monday was the launch of the Moonlight kit. I almost forgot that was actually this week. It's been one of those weeks. So, yes, I can actually show you this without hiding it anymore. There it is. That's what I was hiding from. You'll notice the camera's missing. The camera's actually over there. I've had to take the camera back out a minute. To do some testing on some things, which I'm going to talk about a bit more in a minute. But yes, we had the launch of the Moonlight this week. The long-anticipated 4K camera and DVR from CaddX. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about this, which is my favourite quad, and I don't care what anybody else says, but we are going to talk about the Afterburner a little bit, because this has been a bit of a controversial one. And some of the comments that I got on the video just didn't make sense to me. So we are going to talk about the Afterburner. We're also going to talk about what else happened this week. There's all sorts, and whatever else I've put in the title, I can't remember. We have the Moonlight. We're going to talk a bit about the Goggles X as well, where we're at on that right now, because there are some things people need to be aware of. Also, a bug that's come to light on the HDZero goggles, which is a bit of a weird one. It seems like it's been introduced in the new firmware, so I'm just going to make you aware of that one too. And as always, we'll talk about anything else that comes up along the way. Now, I've got myself a cup of tea with love together for Groku on my cup. We have the chat. We have 102 of you amazing people here as well. Now, as always, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. I'll try and answer them. I have moved things around a little bit. I got screens a bit closer to me tonight. I can actually see the chat. Hello, Andy Kirkwood. Hello, Chris. Hello, Gary. Hello, Captain Bry. Hello, Captain Bry. How are you? Need to talk about Express ELRS a little bit as well. I need to do some testing. I still haven't had a chance because I've been fighting some other things. Let the shilling commence. Absolutely. And yeah, we're going to talk about whatever comes up. Now, as always, if you do have any questions, put them in the chat and I'll try and answer them. Super chats are welcome, but they're not required for me to answer a question. But what a super chat will do is get yourself called out on the channel, and you'll get a thank you from me for supporting us in what we do as well. Now, it has been an interesting week with regards to things. I'm going to hop back to that window because we have had the launch of Moonlight, and it feels like a very long time ago for me. And the reason is I started working on the Moonlight video weeks and weeks and weeks ago, and I had to keep stopping and changing things. And you may have noticed how I dealt with that video was very specific, and how I've dealt with and will be dealing with things moving forward has slightly changed as well. And that is, if it's a pre-release product, it is only going to be mentioned as such. If there are issues, they are going to be highlighted in a certain way, depending on what they are. And I really need to make sure that people fully understand what I have versus what they will have, because I never want to be in the position of what I was with the Goggles X again, which is getting caught out by a product. And look, the Goggles X situation is a very complex issue, because the reality is it isn't fair to say that what I got is different to what everyone else has got. The Goggles X has an underlying current of a number of people are having very real problems, and a fair number of people are not. And I still fundamentally think there is something else going on we don't understand, and that is because there are people reporting their goggles overheating in under 10 minutes in like 20 degrees C at 50 degrees on the displays, which is completely different to what I've had to put them through and other people have had to put them through. And there is still something going on that we don't fully understand. And what it isn't as simple as the product I got was very different to the product you got. It is a almost case-by-case basis. But CaddX have addressed it, apparently. And they have, obviously, the heatsink, which I haven't tried yet, but I will be talking around that a little bit more soon when I have a hands on a finalized version of the product that does have this pre-installed. And the situation was largely the same for the Moonlight as well, because the Moonlight was this strange situation of being sent hardware and literally being unable to keep it under thermal control on the bench, even with two fans in front of it, and then being told that, oh, there's been a change, that won't happen in the production version. And that leaves you in a very difficult position, because I can't comment on the power draw, the thermals, and you'll notice I didn't mention power draw in my Moonlight video, and that's intentional. Because it's pointless, because until we understand what has changed on the production model, the power draw may have changed. I didn't really bother with the thermals and stuff like that. So I'm intrigued to understand what has changed on the production one. And we will talk about that a bit in a minute as well, because I know what mine is like inside. And I don't know, have they actually changed the hardware, or is this more about we've slapped a thermal pad in to try and keep it cool? And I genuinely don't know. We're going to have to wait and see. But there's a lot to understand and unpack on this. Now, what I will be, though, doing moving forward is just being completely fair, as I was on the review of that, but as I will be and was on the Raw, the 2 Raw video on the Afterburner, and that's how I'm going to be handling things moving forward. It is interesting when you get into this situation, because the Moonlight, and I'm interested in what people thought of the Moonlight. What you may have noticed from the 2 videos that I put out this week, and let me just go to the channel, because I do feels such a long time ago. Honestly, this feels like I'm talking a week out of step here. But obviously, these were filmed a little bit in advance, and I really struggled on weather and time. And for anyone who's in the UK, you will know what I'm talking about on weather. We're just not there right now with regards to being able to fly. It's just impossible. But what we did manage to do was get 2 videos out. We had 3, in fact, but we had the CaddX Moonlight video, and we had the 2 raw Afterburner video. Now, they were both filmed consecutively day on day. Unfortunately, the issue I had with the 2 raw video was the footage I took was not meant to be the footage for the video. My plan was still testing, and some people have picked up on the comments in that there's some jello in the footage. And there is, because I was running it without ND filters on the action camera intentionally, because I wasn't taking filming footage. I was doing test runs to make sure everything was behaving as I expected in the way I was testing, and then I ended up having to use it, and some people have gone, oh my god, there's vibrations. Look, if you're going to fly an action camera at 30 frames a second on a bright sunlight day without ND filters, the shutter speed is going to give you jello. If you don't understand that, then I suggest go watch a video that I made on this a very long time ago. Every single camera will get jello if the shutter speed is too fast. That's just a reality. That's how it happens. What you have to do is double the shutter. Ideally, you want to do this the 180-degree rule to smooth everything out. However, I wasn't doing it, and that was why we had it. But you will notice the footage between those 2 videos was very similar, because I literally had 2 days of sunshine, 1 evening and 1 day over a weekend, and it was like, I've got to get this done. And I've got to get this done now. So that was why the footage was similar. And I haven't been able to fly since. The weather's been shocking. But overall, Moonlight is a very interesting product. And if anyone has any questions, you know, don't be afraid to ask them. Overall, I think CaddX have a good product. I'm not sure what problem it fully solves today, because Moonlight has one fundamental issue, as does DJO3, and that issue remains the fact you can't get the best recording mode with the lowest latency, and that remains the same problem for Moonlight today. It does look decent enough in 4K. It absolutely does. It looks like a complete bag of crap in 1080p mode, which you have to use in low latency mode, which almost makes it a completely pointless upgrade for anyone who is not willing to fly high latency mode. And the real interesting thing is, how many people is that really going to be? And I don't know. And again, the fundamental problem with Moonlight is the best recording mode, which is 4K, only works in high latency mode. And that limits its usability for most people. Will Moonlight kick DJO4's half? Yeah, not a chance. Look, Moonlight is a better DVR on the Avatar kit. That is as far as it is. It still isn't as good as O3. The camera's not as good as O3. The DVR, the chipset that they're using is a fairly mundane artisan chipset in the Moonlight DVR. It's nothing particularly special. It's arguably not even as good as the Walnut, because the Walnut used the H2. Chibi has just said Walksnail should come out with a dual lens system, one for VTX and one for DVR. That is the only way we are going to solve the frame rate versus recording rate issue, is a separate sensor, because what you can't do is run the sensor at 30 frames a second and have a low latency mode of 90. You can't refresh the sensor at 2 different times. Any news on the DJI 04 yet? Probably won't be a DJI 04 in the next... I wouldn't even be shocked if there's no DJI 04 this year. Remember, 04 is a technology, not an air unit. 04 will ship in the next set of drones. That doesn't mean it will come as a standalone air unit. If you have a dual lens, why not just have an action camera? And as AVI says, that's the problem. Everything you do takes you back. There's no good replacement still today than an action camera on a drone. Ice Cream says high latency doesn't bother most fixed wings guys. No, 100%. Fixed wing guys, good day. Happy days. But you're probably going to be better with 03 if you... for the image quality then. And this is the fundamental problem. The fundamental issue is there is no simple way to do what everyone wants. And this was the quite amusing thing about the video actually on this. The amount of people who were saying, oh my God, why have they got props in view on 03? Or the 03 air unit in this drone is pointless. It isn't. 03 is still by far overall the best FPV system in general. With regards to penetration, overall performance, range, it still outperforms all of the others on average. HDZero has the lowest latency, period. Not even open for discussion. Avatar HD has no range limit and looks nice, but it has quirks. 03 is the best balance of all of them. Of all. Complete, you know, if you take into account DJI's penetration performance is hands down better. DJI's image quality is better. DJI's general performance is better. But CaddX have some really nice options, as does HDZero. It's down to then picking and choosing what you want. If someone said to me, I want the best image quality, then I would just, and I don't care about latency, then it's DJI. If someone says, I want the widest compatibility, then it's Avatar HD. If someone says, I want the lowest latency, it's HDZero. It's as simple as that. 03 does badly in low light auto exposure. Yeah, you know, 03 is designed to be a cinematic looking camera. That's what it is designed for. They compromised many parts of it. The best thing about the Avatar, the 1S VTX is it is. And again, widest range of compatibility. Avatar HD, 1S VTXs, HDMI out on the goggles, HDMI VRX module, HDMI input on the goggles. There's no one system today that does everything. But it's down to what you're looking for. And again, Moonlight is a decent product. I think... I'm not sure what problem it solves, though. And that was my fundamental issue with it in the end. If the 1080p mode wasn't quite as garbage, it wouldn't be so bad. Don't you give widest compatibility to HDZero? No, because there are more options on Avatar. It does. Moonlight adds an SD card slot, yes. And look, it is going to be interesting to... 03 has by far the best penetration. Categorically. I don't know what DJI are doing at times. It's like a freaking miracle at times. You can use Infray with FPV... You could with a Raspberry Pi. You're going to have to use a HDMI out and a HDMI in, which we still don't have from Avatar HD. Moonlight says, wait for me on my long-range planes. Just be careful with airflow on it. That's good, and that's the big problem with all of these VTXs is going to be airflow. Now, it is going to be interesting to see what they do with this DVR board, and that's not as simple as it sounds. You know, for those who didn't see, we did do a complete teardown of the board. It's basically its own entity. So if we just go to the overhead a minute, where is it? I've lost it. So the VTX is in the back here, as you can see. Let's get in a bit closer, shall we? Right. So we've got the VTX there, and we'll go to the teardown images there now. Remember, it is two different products in one. It's not like O3. The thing to understand about O3 is O3 isn't two separate products. Ooh, I've just lost a piece. 1 second. O3 is two boards, but they are fundamentally part of each other. Whereas Moonlight is a DVR and a VTX, and they are completely independent, separate items. Now, I have updated the wiki this week for it. So if I go to FPV wiki, I have added the Moonlight VTX images on here when I find it. Where is it? Moonlight VTX. I need to add a couple more because I'm trying to find what I've done with them. I've lost some stuff in the move around. Lost isn't the right term. I've misplaced some stuff in the move around. So obviously this is the internal images of the DVR board. If we go to this one first of all. So this is the Moonlight DVR with a MIPI pass-through. So what you have here is the chipset, which they've thinged off, but it's an art. We know strongly believe it's an artisan chipset. You've got your memory. You've got your MIPI pass-through IC by Lotium. Interesting, Lotium, they're using Lontium, I think it is. They're using this company a lot in their products. And then we've got the unfortunately, and this worries me a little bit, we've got the DA9062, which is bloody regulator again, which has a habit of failing in the VTXs. We're going to have to wait and see how solid that is. You can then see power comes in over here and here. There are another two pads which we need to have a look at, in fact, and investigate a bit more, but there are another two pads. And then on the back side, you've got your voltage regulator here, your Giga Drive, your flash ROM, and then as you can see, there isn't really that much on this side of the board other than passive components, other than the other memory IC. You've got your MIPI out, your SD card, you've got a clock down here as well, we've got an LED over here. The overall board design is very well done. I got no complaints over that. There are test points located all over the place. And it is the Avatar STR main version 1.2. Now, what I don't know is what they're going to change to keep the temps down on this. That is going to be interesting to see. But yeah, interesting piece of gear. And again, as I said, it is fundamentally two separate products. So the VTX that's in the Moonlight VTX is the version 2 dual antenna VTX. I can't show it. I need to get pictures of that one. But yeah, overall, very, very interesting. Just reading down on the chat, CaddX is attractive because of the options. Quirky, obviously, but when you're at the bottom, there's nowhere to go but up. They're definitely putting in effort. But they are, hey, Fire Mic FPV, but they are rushing too much. You know, and look, this is part of the issue. What I will say is this. The last firmware they released for this VTX made it work fairly well. If I'd have had to have made the review on the earlier firmware, it would have been horrific. I suspect ENF says I'm more interested how they're going to package the separate DVR. I suspect it'll have a heatsink like the VTX, and you'll have to stack them. I would be astonished if they ship this without a casing. My bets are it will look a lot like the current VTX just without antenna ports. I've not seen it, but that's what I would suspect. That's what my bets will be. Is it will basically come shielded like an existing VTX, and then you will just mippy through one to the other, basically. But overall, I think interesting product. Nice to see it's finally out. It'll be interesting to see how the firmware updates go. I do have a public release version en route, I believe. And I will be then able to do the full thermal testing on that one to be able to see how it is. It gets bloody hot. That's what you do need to take into account. But yeah, really interesting. Look, I was overall quite pleased with the 4K footage, but it's still well over sharp. And a lot of people commented, why didn't you turn the sharpness down? I just didn't have time. I literally am in the situation where flying is close to impossible right now. Hello, David, my friend, how are you? Anyone who's in the UK, especially in Wales right now, the weather is just horrific. I would be astonished if they shipped the naked Moonlight, but I could be wrong. They did ship the naked 1S, so it is possible. If I'm a betting man, it'll come with a heatsink, is what I would bet on. Ben Too Good, how are you? Do I think it's possible to replace the goggles to MMCX? I'm feeling I'm probably too close to the insertion cycles. Yes, so the MMCXs go to UFLs on the board. It would not be terribly difficult, but it would be a complete goggle teardown. It is absolutely doable, and you'd have to mount the SMAs. Whatever you replace them with is the problem, because you're not going to get DJI's dedicated port. If I did it, I'd just get RPSMAs and mount them on the top, is what I would do. Lord FPV, hello, my friend from Germany. I would just mount them on top of the, I'd probably 3D print something to grip it and mount RPs. Definitely doable. Is a 5-volt fan lighter than a heatsink? Probably. But yeah, so that's where we're at on that. With regards to the goggles, I've got to talk about something. And I forgot to put this in the thing. Right. Now, whilst the Moonlight predominantly went well, there is some things that need to be mentioned. And that is the fact that CaddX used stock images in their marketing material for the Moonlight camera. And a number of the images are complete and utter BS. And this, unfortunately, is part of the problem that we have, in that you can't at times believe a word this company tells you. And when I'm talking about that, if we go over to the desktop and we click on products, let's just find the Moonlight option. There it is. Let's click on it. This image here, is a stock image bought online and not taken on the Avatar HD system. This image here is a stock image bought online and not taken from the Avatar HD system. So, it does bring into question what you can believe at times. And let me be crystal clear, CaddX will not be the only one doing this. But it is complete and utter BS that this happens. Now, let me just find the link on my Discord to the original images, because this was highlighted on my Discord. Let me just find it. And it is just bullcrap that this has happened. Let me just find it. Because I was shared the links to the original images as well, you see. And I'd like to put them up. But I need to check now how far back I need to go. Unbelievable. Almac FPV, how about the latency in the goggles stayed at 21 milliseconds even after log behind the images? I'm trying to find the stock images. Here we go. Use one of them. So, here we go. So, here are the stock images that you can buy and download for the images. So, if we just Exhibit A, okay? So, let's go Exhibit A, and then we'll have Exhibit B. So, Exhibit A, the CaddX image. Exhibit B. Oh, what's it done? Get off. There is the stock image. CaddX's image, and we might need to zoom out a little bit. Right there. There you go. The stock image. Remind you of anything? Image from CaddX, stock image. Image from CaddX, stock image. Plot twist, stock image was taken with CaddX Moonlight. What a load of nonsense. Wow, they're selling images taken with Moonlight to be used as stock photos, Captain Bry. Yeah, I wonder when this one was uploaded. I wonder if they have any... When was this one... Do they give any details of when these were put up? Be great if they did. No, I can't see. I can't see the date. But yes. So, just remember. The truth is out there. When people like me are skeptical, there is a reason for it. And there are things that I have been told time and time again that just keep getting backed up by crap like this. Did they crop the watermark out? It looks like it. Are you, Josh Howell, are you stock images on my website for installing cameras? Does it say in the description that these images were taken with Walksnail? I think in this situation, I would class it as deceptive. And the FAA stole it from Bruce. Yes. Now, do I think DJI are any better? Probably not. Because they've been caught doing this crap as well in the past. But just be aware. Just be aware. Anyway, that's it. Enough on them. They've had 33 minutes. I'm hopefully getting They've got loads of FTB freestyle pilots. I have no idea why the guys aren't sending them. I know why they didn't use their own footage, because it would have looked so bad at the time. That's why. Yeah, I'll let you know. It's looking like I'm going to get a production set to have a look at, and then we'll go from there. So, now, if you've got any questions, please let me know in the chat, and we will try and answer them. It's just sadly a thing with advertising these days. Yeah, and I'm going to bloody highlight it. How can you join two 50-ohm coax cables to one antenna? Cable impedance, SWR. That's an interesting subject, actually, and that will lead us nicely on to this. The 2-raw Afterburner. Now, if you haven't seen, I put a video out on this quad this week. Now, I love this quad. I don't care what anyone else says. It flies so well. It's a great bit of kit. It's not going to be for everyone. I get that, but it's a really good flying 5-inch. Let me just get me focus right. Really decent quad. It flies very, very well. The tune is really good. Some questions I got which just didn't make sense. One guy was saying, you must have had the camera angle on the top virtually laid back to keep the props out of view. And I'm like, are you on drugs? That is the camera angle I had it at there. Why would you need the camera angle any more than that to keep these props that are down here out of view? No, genuinely, it's the nicest flying quad that I've flown. I'll put my money where my mouth is. This was not going back, whatever happened, if I just pay for it. They might want it back. I don't know they don't. They're not fucking having it back because I'll just pay for it. I don't care. I love this quad. I genuinely love this quad. It is quieter than a Nazgul. It flies better than a Nazgul. It's overall just a better quad than a Nazgul. It really, really is. The Nazgul's a great quad, but it's bloody loud. And it's a decent bit of kit. Now, it isn't for everyone, but the one thing, obviously, that a lot of people have been questioning is this O3 antenna thing. And that is the fact that both antennas come into one port. Now, when I first saw this, I did sort of go, ugh, that's not a good idea. Floor 5, the frame's going to be available soon, but you won't build it for the price they're selling it. They're selling it less than it would cost to buy it on the components. And I was I'm not sure what I think about this. And I had a chat with them and had a chat with them on the performance and then did my own testing. And the interesting thing is, I have seen no downsides, period, to combining the antennas. And then I had to start thinking about, okay, why and how does it do it? Stock 03 antenna comes into one port. Yeah, but it doesn't, because it's two separate antennas inside. Whereas this comes to one port. And thinking about this, the first thing was, oh my God, you're plowing full RF power into the other amplifier, but you won't be. Because remember, the other amplifier, the way O3 works, the two pigtails come into one port. O3 only ever transmits on one port at a time. Okay? It never transmits on both. It is switches between one or the other. So, the fact that you're combining them should have no effect on the PAs. The PA then is constantly switching back and forth. In the end, whilst I'm not 100% sure there isn't a downside somewhere I'm not aware of, I've not seen it as of today. I've seen no effect on the penetration. I've seen no effect on the range performance. it behaves as you would expect O3 to behave. Now, it is possible this is actually triggering a quirk in the O3 or a behavior that we didn't know about or don't know about, and that it shuts down one side. No, it doesn't get any hotter. You're not going to be pushing power into the PA because the PA switches in and out anyway. So it's not really going to damage the other PA. What you're going to do is potentially overload the other front end. But you're going to do that with their 2-in-1 antenna anyway. And what I suspect is there's something going on that even DJI had already accounted for in O3 by putting the two antennas into one. Because you've got to take into account, putting those two elements next to each other is darn as close enough to connecting them together anyway. And I suspect there is something that DJI have done that basically means it's not a problem. I have seen no downside to it. And that's all I can say so far. That's really all I can say. But it has been slightly controversial, that part of it. If it bothered anyone, you could just swap it out for a stock O3 antenna. Is it fairly durable? It's probably the most durable quad I've seen. This thing is solid, so you're never going to bend an arm, right? So, like, people talk about flex. There's no flex. Look, you're not going to bend that. Everything. This thing is solid. This is a tank. This is the most solid frame I think I've seen. People are saying to me, "Oh, you're going to break it." I don't know how you would break one of those arms. You've got a double truss arm there going into pinned ends with screws solid. I don't see how you're going to break this. I prefer this than the AOS 5. Mostly because it's a True X and it just flies a little bit better. Now, that isn't to say the AOS 5 can't be made to fly as nice as this. I like the squashed and the additional height. I quite like that. And the AOS 5 flies phenomenally well. As a package, I think this is my favourite quad. Yeah, but you got to remember, Mike V, there's not the final amp. There's dual final amps on this. O3 has always been. You can run DJI without an antenna and it won't blow. I don't have any concerns. In theory, SWR is an issue. How important SWR is in 5 gigs and FPV anyway is irrelevant. Because remember, SWR isn't the most important thing. S11 is in itself isn't the most important factor. Efficiency is. So what you lose on one, you may gain on the other. It's just a lovely flying bind and fly. And as I said, it's my favourite 5-inch. SWR is paramount at range. Not necessarily. Efficiency is paramount at range. SWR is reflected power. What's more important than SWR is the efficiency of the power the antenna is converting. Don't get confused that SWR in itself is important. Some of the very best antennas have far higher SWR than worst performing low SWR antennas. SWR is only the measurement of the signal being reflected. It is not a measurement of how much of the signal you're putting into the antenna is actually being converted into radio waves. So for instance, you could have a very low SWR antenna feed on a very poorly efficient antenna and get issues. But tuned frequency is not in itself the most important thing. You've got to take that into account. There's a very complex relationship here between S11 and antenna efficiency. And me and Hugo had a big talk about this. In fact, I wrote an article on TrueRC's website about this. I made a video and wrote the article about it with talking with Hugo. You got to take into account SWR is the amount of power that is being fed into the antenna. What's then the next most important thing is how much of that power is being converted into RF, not how much of that power is then being lost in efficiency losses on conductor losses in the antenna, joint losses, or heat. You have to take into account SWR in itself is not the most important factor. Here's my point on this, right? You could have an antenna with an SWR, which is basically meaning 50% of the antenna, the power, is being reflected. So 50% is going in. But if the antenna efficiency is only 50%, you're then getting only 25% of the power going in. Whereas an antenna that is 100% efficient, even on a high SWR, is going to provide better performance. The tuned frequency of the antenna is important for resonance, but that's on transmit. Predominantly on receive, you'll get away with a lot more. Remember, for receive, it's a different kettle of fish. No, the single port may not be 50 ohm, but the question is how much, what the loss versus the effect is, and you've also got to take into account, are your antennas really sitting at 50 ohm normally anyway? So for starters, how much of the coax on pigtails is actually rated for the frequency we run at? How much of then the effect of the battery, the effect of the other antenna being in close proximity to it is also going to affect it as well. You've got to take into account there is far more to this than just saying feeding that into 2 is going to be completely wrong. We're not sitting, we're not using an isotropic antenna in a perfect environment here. We're generally flying with an antenna next to a huge chunk of aluminium foil, next to motors, next to carbon fiber. There is so much at play here. Plot it on a Smith chart. Reality is, I've seen zero downsides to it. I ain't worried. I'd be more worried. I'll be honest, I'm more worried about the people I see flying O3 with one antenna. I've seen quite a few people flying O3 with one antenna. I am more worried about that than I would be this. I've not had any issues. No one has. Remember, both ports are not transmitting at the same time. Remember, there are outside influences all over your quad, even with dual antennas. You know, really, with running dual antennas, there's a whole world of pain that we'd have to go through to actually get it so it's perfect. Any idea if CaddX will ship or heatsink encoded from the US? They should be. What I've been told by CaddX is they're going to ship to retailers. So just speak to your retailer. They should be shipping them to the retailers. But you can order it from their website for free, I believe. What does changing antennas to patches give you on the Goggle X? Depends what you're looking for. Patches give you more direction. Patches give you more... Look, people always get confused about antennas. Antennas don't make signal. All antennas do is either receive or transmit in a more directive way. So a patch antenna is going to change your beam, your view, from being like that to being like that. The easiest way to think of a set of patch antennas is like a set of binoculars. You're changing your field of view from being very wide to very narrow, and as such improves the signal performance in that very narrow range at the expense of the signal outside of that range. All you're really doing with a patch antenna is reducing your field of view. So what you've got to ask yourself is, what kind of flying am I doing? If I'm constantly looking at the goggles and I'm only flying in front of me at long range, then a patch antenna is going to improve it. Whereas if you're flying all around you, a patch antenna is going to make life worse. Have many other people experienced brick CaddX VRXs or goggles? It's not particularly common now. It was in the early days. There's no, you could recover it until they changed the root password. JP Spins FPV, it can happen if you power down in firmware update. It still can happen today. It is very still possible. Hi, Lon. But overall, I really like it. As I said, we'll talk about HDZero in a minute. It's just a nice quad. It's just a very, very nice 5-inch quad. So I tell you what, the one bit that surprised me is it's how nice it's been to fly with props in view. I haven't flown a lot with props in view in recent years. However, it is a very nice quad. It is a very nice quad. Why would they change the route? Because they could. Happened after binding failed. They did provide instructions to unbrick. Okay, if they've given you a way of doing it, then you should be able to. What I've never seen is one that couldn't be unbricked. What's with the goggles 1.1? So this is what CaddX are calling the new production goggle, basically. So the goggles X that are leaving the factory today are basically the version 1.1, which is the version with the heatsink pre-installed. That is basically what the new goggle is. So the goggles X that leave the factory today will have the heatsink installed, and you can call this a version 1.1. I've played with the vertical arm design before. Yeah, I'm not going to pretend it's the easiest quad to work on. That's for sure. I agree. It is not the easiest thing to get to. And as I said, you really don't want to get to that O3 air unit. It is buried underneath. It really, really is. But look, very nice quad. Very nice quad indeed. If you're looking for an expensive bind and fly, it's worth a look. There's no in between. It's do you think FPV is trying to... Quad City Bay Area, thank you for the $2 super chat. I appreciate that. Do I think FPV is trying to eliminate GoPros? No, I think the problem here is this. There's this constant strive for weight. And that is, I don't want to carry anything else. Therefore, we're always trying to have a single camera solution. Therefore, we're never going to have the full answer because we never really get to a position where a single camera solution gets us to where we want to be. It comes down to weight. Where I think O3 and this avatar thing does really well is in the whoops, like the Pavo Pico, and they are frighteningly good fun with O3 and other types of things. They are just much, much better. Now, just before we move on to HDZero, I do just want to say that the Moonlight camera in the Moonlight kit does work with all of the other VTXs. You can use it on any of the VTXs. Obviously, you won't get 4K recording. If you use the Moonlight on the other stuff, it's simply a case of that camera giving you the camera options, but you won't get 4K, but it does look very nice on a standard DVR. What's the difference between Walksnail Vision 2 VTX with the single or dual antennas? Basically, you got the extra PA and antenna. Overall performance doesn't really seem to be any different. Yeah, that's the problem. Yeah, it doesn't have two cameras. Well, I'm not going to say it doesn't have two cameras. It doesn't have two filming cameras is the term I'll use, Lon. not two filming ones. GoPro are a dying company. I think they'll need to innovate to survive if it's the 13 year. Look, I think they're all in trouble right now. Even DJI. I think even DJI is struggling. The camera drone boom has burst. And people are not buying Mavics and upgrading on the mass scale that they were. And you are seeing DJI release new products. We've just had mics too. I'm actually tempted to order a set. I could actually use them, especially when I saw they had 32-bit float recording. I don't need 32-bit float recording, but I sort of do need 32-bit float recording. For those who don't know what 32-bit float recording is, it means basically you can't peek out. You will always be in a correct audible level from a too loud point of view. But what I don't know is if DJI have done 32-bit float properly. You only need it if you start screaming. What it does is it solves a lot of problems when you jump in between cameras. So even if you overload the amp, the audio amp in the camera, you can get away with pulling the audio off the device. But yeah, I fancy 32-bit float would be really handy. But I also need to understand if DJI are doing it properly, because the way 32-bit float is done properly is you have multiple stages of amplifiers with taps at each stage. Whereas they could be doing some software nonsense, so I do need to understand how they're doing it. It doesn't sound as good as the Rode Wireless Pros. Sounds a bit tinny from what I've heard in the videos, but it's definitely a nicer form factor. Yeah, and I do like the package that DJI have, to be honest. I got a set of Wireless Go's, original ones, version 1s, and I need to replace them now. But I'm holding out for something. But the Rodes have been very good. I've not got a bad bit of Rode gear, if I'm honest. Can the O3 single antenna be used with the Go Air unit? The original Air unit, you can use the O3 antenna on anything you want that's 5 gigs. Or I wouldn't use it on a 2.4 gig product, because whilst it is dual band, it's quite poor. But it's okay. You can use it on whatever you want. Now, I need to just catch up on the super chats before I move forward. So Marcus gave a €99 super chat with a screaming face. Thank you for that. What's up, FPV? Thank you, Dave, for the £5. And as I've said, Quad City Bay Area, $2. Thank you for them, my friends. I really do appreciate it. So, Avatar goggles, version 1.1, basically with the heatsink. Moonlight is out. You can use the camera on any VTX, but it won't record in 4K, obviously. But you do get all of the camera options. We don't know about the standalone DVR yet, and the image quality in 1080p is still horrific. And it overheats like hell. But we're going to have to wait and see. They sent them to me alongside with a free 1S VTX. That's very nice of them. Okay. Next, we're going to quickly talk about HDZero, because a bug has come to light with regards to the HDZero goggles going into standby. Now, it seems that there was a new feature added in the last firmware update for the HDZero goggles, that if you double tap one of the buttons, and I need to have a look at this, the goggles will enter into standby. And the bug appears to be that certain people's goggles, and it doesn't seem to be affecting everyone's, are randomly entering this standby. Now, it's not really clear at this moment in time if it's related to their goggles having a button that is too sensitive, whether it's related to something else triggering what it believes is a button input, or it's just a sheer bug in the software. Now, what we do know today is, to prevent this, you can turn on the head tracking function, which stops the goggles going into standby altogether and stops the problem happening. Now, I've not experienced this, but I will be honest, my flight time on the latest firmware has been limited. I haven't seen it. There is a sort of critical safety thing that's been opened up on December the 10th on Discord. Where is it? It's on this one here. Where they're adding some changes to this. Justin said, I think he was one of the ones that had this and found this. I also heard in earlier firmware revisions there must have been a bug with these buttons too, as many people have had random DVR recordings during flight. Interesting. So it almost sounds like it's random input. But there is a GitHub about this where it's been going down, and I'm guessing we're going to get a firmware on this pretty soon. And hopefully that will resolve the issue. Now, today, the only way to stop this is to turn the head tracking function on, and that will stop it happening. It could be that there are goggles with sensitive buttons. It could be that button input is being misread by the microcontroller. It's a bit of a weird one, to say the least, and it's definitely a bit sporadic. And it definitely needs fixing. Now, I didn't really know about this until this week. I saw it start to sort of come to light on Facebook, and then you sort of had more and more people comment on it. It seems to have started since they introduced the sleep function, but that doesn't mean there hasn't been button problems before. So it's a very, very weird one. It seems like the sleep function has sort of... Look, if they'd have introduced a feature that the double button press put a warning up on the screen saying your buttons were pressed, we'd probably have lots of people saying your buttons were pressed. That's the real simple reality of the situation right now. Hopefully they'll get a firmware update out ASAP. Frankly, I would push a firmware update disabling this feature. Like now. Is what I would do. My first protocol would be to disable the sleep function until they fully understand the issue. But there is lots of talk on the GitHub. There's new firmware on the GitHub as well. Just catching down on the chat. I would personally just disable the feature until we have a better understanding. I guess the warrant of putting the goggles into standby. Do I think this is probably a feature too far? If I think about this, do we have any other goggles that have a standby feature that you can press the button and go into standby? I don't think there are. All of the other goggles stay on. Do we really need this as a feature? You got a bloody switch on the side. Turn the goggles off. That's sort of my thought. Will FPV pilots always be alpha beta paying testers? I think, look, whenever there's new software, there's a risk of a bug. You know, look, the feature itself works fine. The problem is, it appears there's random button presses kicking in. It's not that the goggles are randomly going into standby, it's that there seems to be random button presses. What we don't fully understand is the cause of that. But there is a firmware 3 days ago Does digital have more range than analog? Only yes, but only because of sort of the ability for it to cut through. What helps digital is you can rebuild the link. You just can't do that on analog. That's the thing with it. Okay, so that's the HDZero thing. I've not had it myself. It's not a great thing to have. Hey, Ian, I've just made Bubbling Squeak. Sod. My DVR has been pausing during flight as well. It could be the button press. There could be more to this than we know. What I don't know... What would be very interesting is seeing if head tracking stops that problem happening. There is a pull request, which was when in... Let me just have a look at this. Let's have a look what this is. Interesting. Stricter right-click detection. So they've made a stricter... So they've added in a stricter, basically, set of rules for the right-click detection. Interesting. So we're just gonna have to wait and see what happens, folks, on that one. Okay, so we've covered a number of the topics. I'm trying to remember what else I put in the doc. If you have any questions, please do let me know in the chat, and I will try and answer them. Overall, that's been the majority of stuff that we've seen this week. It has been a rather quiet week. There are some things that I've been working on in the background, which I'm trying to get finished. There are some new products coming, but I've decided not to get involved. I just don't have the time a minute. Nothing particularly exciting. I'm not going to say what they are, but I will say you're probably going to see some reviews on some things coming out. Nothing phenomenal, nothing fantastic, but frames, things, motors, things like that. I've decided to step away from some stuff in a minute. Obviously, we're now on the countdown to what comes next from DJI. What happened with the Orqa FPV goggles? They sort of sorted it out. Orqa basically got held to ransom. I don't know what happened to the guy in the end. That's something I probably need to do a bit of digging on. What happened to the guy? Basically, someone tried to blackmail them, who was an ex-developer of theirs. That's the basics. We've obviously got the Sky Zones. Fat Shark, we don't really know what's happening. Is he alive? We don't really know what's happening with the Fat Shark stuff. We're just waiting on seeing. Something that I did see this week, which was quite interesting, is for those who have had one, Rotor Riot have released a version 2 of their backpack, which I am tempted to order one of these in to review, actually. So they've released a version 2 of the Rotor Riot backpack with a number of small changes. You may have seen that they listed it on their Facebook page, and they said it's a version 2, and there are a number of little changes that they talk about down here. So additional quick access pocket integrated, seamlessly to integrate your new LiPo Bag 2 with an improved quick access pocket. They've optimized drone storage. So what they've now said, now opening to the side for effortless bag placement without the need to remove your drones. Okay. Upgraded bungee toggles and more laptop protection. So quite interesting. Now, for those who haven't seen it, it is available on the Rotor Riot website. It's labeled the FPV Backpack version 2. Not the cheapest thing in the world. It does cost $199. With the LiPo bag, though, $220. So you're paying 20 quid for the LiPo bag. It's not too bad for the LiPo bag. EVA LiPo bag, or you can get it with a basic LiPo bag for $213. So that's not too bad. So $199 for the standard bag. None of these FPV backpacks are particularly cheap. Look, you're paying a Rotor Riot tax here. That's a reality. You either support the brand or you don't. Apparently, it is very good for the money. None of them are particularly cheap, mind. I don't think any of the backpacks are super cheap. Bardwell's got a review on it, as has obviously Rotor Riot. They've got a video on it as well. Mike Bergman says the bag is sick, worth all of $200. The Race Day Quads backpack is quite cheap. Okay. I haven't seen the Race Day Quads. Should we have a look? Yeah, I've got a Torval. And they're not cheap either. So if we just search for backpacks... Was it the $79 one? Was this the Race Day Quads one people were talking about? Is that the one people are commenting on? Yeah, it looks... Yes, it's not... It doesn't seem like as solid or as big as the ones. That looks quite nice. But if you look, if you price the Rotor Riot backpack in comparison to some of the bigger Torvals, like I've got the Pit Stop Pro version 1 Stealth. Actually, I've got that. So what's that? $203. So that's on par with the Rotor Riot pricing. The Rotor Riot pricing it's not crazy. Yes, you can get cheaper bags. But I think $200 does seem to be the ballpark for some of these more expensive, higher end backpacks. Here's the cheap one here. It's not in stock at the moment. So it depends what you're after. You know, I think they'll all do a job. It depends what and how much. You know, I'll be honest, I cannot knock the Pit Stop Pro. I think I must have the version 2. Is mine the version 2? Yeah, mine's the version 2. It's down there. I have this, and I can't knock this. This bag has been phenomenal. But that's a $238 bag. ENF $4.99 super chat. Which has more range? Digital retransmission VTX like DJI and Avatar, or analog at 2.5 watts? It's very hard to say. that is a complicated subject. There's too much to understand in it. I genuinely don't know what would go further. 2.5 watts ain't still going to get you that far. If you were talking 10 or 20 watts, maybe. I just don't know what's going to get you further. Analog trumps with RF power. But what you've got to take into account is the amount of RF power needed. It's a complicated subject. I'd still expect digital to win in the end. So, where is it? I've lost it. So, if you are interested in getting the Rotor Riot backpack, it is there available. The price isn't particularly shocking. I think it's on par for the more expensive backpacks. Ooh, that's something I did see this week. What do you think about the new Jumper T14? I think it looks a lot like a number of radios. For those who haven't seen it, let's find it. Jumper have released the new T14. Let's bring it up. Oh, really? Why is it their website plays music every time? Every time. Now, this radio may look familiar. Look, I've not tried it. I can't comment. It doesn't look as feature-rich as the Boxer. Looks probably something between the Mambo and the Boxer. Yeah, it's a bit of a combination of all of them. I didn't see what the pricing was. Let me get back to the website. Wait for the bloody music to start so I can mute it. So, price-wise, you can get the T14 CNC Hall effect sensors. How much is it with the standard gimbals? Gits. How do you mute a tab? Why? Why the music? Just why, Jumper? Why? Where's Mr. Varty is here? The beard oil king himself. The shoulder buttons are in better place than the Boxer. Easier to finger them. Wes knows a lot about fingering holes, so he's definitely going to be the man to tell us about button placement. Other than that, it's very similar to the Boxer. I did tap the speaker icon, it didn't work. Like, I'm doing it, it's not stopping. Oh. I'm tapping it. It's not working. Where's mute? Bye-bye. That one. Found it. Why, Jumper? Why have the music? Okay, so, price-wise, I don't know how much it costs. It's got ExpressRS built in. You can get it in 2.4 and 915, which is good to see. Jumper do keep making them in both, which is interesting. Built-in module, you still have the external module bay, which again is nice to see. Really not sure about their gimbals. They're not great on the T20s. Where it says the shoulder buttons are better placed, which is nice to see. Let's see if Jumper actually tell us how much RF power is capable of pushing. That handle on the back looks very plasticky. $21,700s again. Jumper do like their $21,700s, don't they? Antenna modification holes. And then look, it's basically got the same antenna as on the T20. Okay, now that is interesting. That is a 2.4-inch OLED display. Now, I didn't realize that. 2.4-inch OLED. Okay, that's got to look nice. Will that fit the Boxer? Here's a mod. That's a big OLED display, that is. Plasticky handle makes it easy to remove without the screws. That display has surprised me. Okay, that is interesting. Reading down, I'm just checking now what they've said about the rest of the spec. 2 2 positions, 2 3 positions, which again is nice. Is it a color display? Well, it's white and black. It's got 2 colors. Let's just see down what they say about the resolution. 128 by 64. Quite low. No mention of RF power. Oh, there. Is it down here? Oh, there it is. Sorry. 1,000 watts. That shell is almost a carbon copy of the Mambo. Color display will drain the battery. 2 color display win. Interesting. Definitely not 1,000 milliwatt. Yeah, sorry, not 1,000 watts. 1,000 milliwatt. It's a watt. There you go. 30 dBm. Interesting. The most interesting thing for that radio for me is the display. That display looks rather interesting. I'm not sure you can call it a budget Boxer. I'm not sure the term budget comes in. Jumper make a whole new radio and Ian's purely focused on pillaging the display to put in another company's radio. Yeah. I'd have to see it. It's not particularly exciting. But people may like it. I'm not sure what more I can say than that. Yeah, the 6 mode buttons are missing, so you don't have them, although I don't use them on the Boxer. They're not the greatest on the Boxer. They're too close to the surface. They should have been taller. I think Radio Master should have made the buttons probably another mil taller on the Boxer. You've got a latching arm button, which is replaceable as well by the look of it. Very similar radio. External cooling fan is quite interesting, but again, the Boxer has a cooling fan inside. So the box is cooled. Very interesting indeed. Have there been reviews on this yet? I've not seen. They've not sent me one, so I don't know. Have there been reviews on this radio yet? Clearly, yes. Okay, so he's showing us the antenna. I do like the colour of the shell, mind. I don't know what any of that says, so... Jumper do put these like foam things around their radio things. I'll keep his channel thing there so you can see it. Shell doesn't look as bad now. Yeah, it definitely looks like a Mambo. Yeah, man, sure. I want to see the display. So it's an OLED black and white. I'm a bit disappointed now. I was hoping that display would look lovely. But if you look at it, right there, it's very low resolution, so I don't really see the benefit of it being OLED. Bit of a shame that if the resolution's what's let that down. That display not being OLED would be fantastic. Ah, here we go again. Still no backpack, I'm guessing, as someone has just said. Where's in the team? Have they learned? Captain Bry, there he is. No backpack on it either. Sad face. Sorry, I missed that, Captain Bry. Ah, here we go again. How's this handle on the back then? I just want to have a look at this. Oh. Well, that's going to wear out in 10 seconds. Can you take that handle off? Or is it Wes's method of taking the handle off with a pull? So you can get a module in quite easily. Okay. Yeah, not really exciting. Bit of a shame, really. Genuinely, I don't even think I'd bother reviewing it. What am I going to say? This radio looks a lot like the Boxer, which looked a lot like the Mambo. It has... yeah, I don't really know what that you can say about it. It's... So that's an official comment from Wes Varty. Backpack is mandatory from here on out. No future targets are getting approved without one. Yeah, I just don't... If they reach out and they want to send one, I might just... I got no need for it. I don't know. I don't know what I could say. I don't know what I could say on that. If you think of the Boxer, right? If you think of the Boxer came with everything I ever asked for. Everything I ever asked for. I'm not sure what more can be said that it's a radio that doesn't have all of the features of the other ones. It's basically a clone. The display isn't... Yeah. What more can be said? What more can be said? It'd be nice... Look, I'd like to see Jumper concentrate on the bits that others don't do well. No one needs another copy radio. The Pocket is phenomenal. The Pocket, when I look at all of the radios that have released, they all had their place, including the T20, because it was different. This just... Backpack is handy for future use. Backpack with HDZero allows you to control the VTX from the radio and stuff like that. You don't need it necessarily with DJI, but it's a feature you wouldn't want to limit yourself on. So Backpack is a local communication link between the devices. So think of it like your goggles can communicate with your transmitter, which can communicate with your VTX. And then you can say via your radio to change the channel on the goggles, for instance. Wireless antenna tracker. I also start and stop recording on my HDZero with the Backpack. Yeah. As well as Mavlink. Yeah, look, there's lots of uses. So it's, you know. Yeah, it'd be good to see, like, some more smaller controllers. If you think, we're probably Radio Master had their biggest miss of the last few years is the Zorro. The Zorro is a fantastic radio with a huge Achilles heel. A giant Achilles heel, which is the battery life. Someone could outdo Radio Master with a better Zorro. Or Radio Master could outdo Radio Master. That's probably Radio Master's biggest miss. I like the Zorro. It's a great radio. Just the battery life drove me bonkers. It's just it was always going to be flat. That's about the only thing someone could outdo Radio Master on is the Zorro. TBS needs a Tango 3. I always use the Zorro with an external pack, yeah. Which then virtually turns it into a bloody boxer. Radio Master can outdo Radio Master and fix the Zorro. Yeah, you know, I suspect there'll be a Zorro 2 at some point. I'm shocked it hasn't happened. I'm shocked they haven't done something. You know, a bit of a tweak to get 18650s in. And you can get some fairly high capacity 18320s. A genuinely premium radio like Futaba quality? Oh, you're talking about FR Sky, the AVI physics? Wouldn't it 250 milliwatts on the Zorro? My 18350s are 3500s. Jesus, they're big cells. I think I found 2 amps max was the ones I was looking at. FR Sky doesn't do HDX. Yeah. There are some really nice radios out there right now. Someone could make an edged, you know, if we saw a proper HDX version of, say, some of the FR Skies, that I do like the Tandem. As much as I'm going to get abuse for this, I do like the X20. I've not used one. I would love to try an X20 still. There is still something I wouldn't mind seeing about this radio. The X20 is a very nice looking handset. You got the X20S and the Pro. The Pro looks to be a beautiful handset. The handset, not the company, the handset. Let's get it straight. This is a very nice looking hardware, which I'd love to rip the guts out of and put in HDX. I think this is a nice looking radio. I think it would be nice to see someone make a very high quality Express ELRS copy, please. I would love to see that. I think it's a good looking RC, and it does look like it's decent quality. But obviously it's FR Sky's horrible behavior in world. But I'd love to see something like that. I would like to see something like this. It would be very cool. The only thing you could do is 3D print one. Hey, Ian, do you think Express ELRS will be the future? I think Express ELRS is probably going to be gone by the end of the year. You know, it's a failing project. Not really any decent updates coming from it. You know, I've heard bad things about pretty much all of the devs. You know, it'll be replaced by something like, you know, some other, you know, it's only a bit of code. Let's be honest, it's not difficult. Someone will spend about 20 minutes in their depot in their dungeon and you know, put something out. You know, it's not like they've done anything really impressive for the hobby. Spectrum, yeah, Spectrum. Spectrum are gonna, you know, it's not like they're really anything that special, really. You know, I heard they spend way too much time sniffing incense sticks and rubbing beard oil. That's the rumors I'd heard. Yeah, that's I don't know. You know, you're just gonna have to see what comes. You know. We should design. I've had this idea before, right? We should do a community radio. Literally build a handset, 3D print the designs, available to 3D print. Because I think I could make that look pretty good in carbon filament. I printed this today in carbon fiber PLA, and this just, I love these carbon fiber filaments. I printed this rose. This is one of my overheads. I got a printer review coming this week. I need more light. 1 second. You need more light to see this. This thing's like the stealth bomber. It just absorbs all of the light. It literally just absorbs all of the light. Now, this is one of those 3D printed roses. For those who haven't seen, I've 3D printed these before. And it's one of these vase mode prints, okay? So this is this. But this is printed in PLA CF. And this thing is just, it is like a black hole, right? It just absorbs light. But what I love is you basically cannot see the print lines. Obviously on the bottom, I did have a bit of an issue on the first layer, the only a minor one. But this is printed in PLA CF, and I just love these PLA CF, or these carbon fiber filaments. I've got PET GCF, and I've got poly PF as well, polycarb PF. CF, sorry. It's so, honestly, it's like a black hole. It just absorbs the light. It's incredible. But I just love that you just have no real layer lines on these at all. I would love to 3D print a radio from this. This was printed on a printer that I'm not necessarily allowed to talk about, and it's not the Bamboo. It's like the Creality K1, but with an extra letter. 0.2 mil, yeah, 0.2. I wish I could show you it properly. It just absorbs all of the light. It's just incredible. It's like a Creality K1 Creality is what it is. It is beautiful. I just don't know how to show you this properly. But I would love to create and design a shell like that we can print in this and build ourselves a radio. I love the carbon fiber filaments. This is not on the Bamboo. This is on something that's releasing this week. Does it conduct electricity? No, it doesn't. There's a very small amount of carbon in this. But I would love to build a handset from this stuff. It just looks phenomenal. For product finishes, it's just amazing. It really, really is. Yeah, I think we need a community designed handset that we can build. The great thing is, you'd only have to design it around like the Boxer mainboard. It's really easy now, or TX16 mainboard. You could literally design it around all of the Radio Master components, right? Because Radio Master sell everything separately. Radio Master sell all of the parts. The gimbals, everything. So we just need to design a radio based around Radio Master innards. Because we're quids in. You can't lose. TX16 board, Zorro board, whatever size you want to use, just use the main board from whatever Radio Master is selling. Cost-wise, it's going to be a no-brainer. You know, if you go to here, look, Radio Master Boxer mainboard, $67. Boom. Available. Zorro board, yes, they do use the Zorro board on the Pocket. Definitely, yes. That's probably the board to use. But there you go. You could literally build it around that. And just go, there we go, that's the base for the radio. And then design your own shell. It'd be great. But I'm a thumber. I'm a combination of the two. I tend to be thumber pincher. More thumber than anything. But I tend to drift between the two. A Zorro body. The world we live in today. Someone needs to... I'm useless with CAD, or I would do it. If I wasn't so useless with CAD, I would do it. Right. we're going to wrap this one up in a few minutes. So if you've got any questions, please do put them in the chat. It was quite a relaxed one tonight. Well, didn't want to go too... Hello! I took a more of a relaxed approach to this week. It's been a very long week, actually. And there's a couple of videos coming out this week. There'll be the one on the AT32. There will be possibly one on this Tone, which we talked about last week. I'm trying to get the build finished. I just can't fly. I'm just fed up at the moment. I cannot fly. The weather is shite. I'm not going to be flying for months. At this rate, I'm not going to be flying for months. I'll be honest. Because every time the weather's good, I'm not in the position to be able to fly. I can't just go, oh, the sun shines out, I need to go fly. At this rate, I reckon it could be March or April before I really get on the sticks again properly. It's just horrific. It really, really is horrific out there. It's just... We're just going to have to wait and see. I am sort of planning a bunch of more 3D printing related content for the next couple of weeks. And actually, I've got some stuff I need to work on in the background. You're probably going to see a bit of a lull from me on content. I'm pretty much not doing reviews at the moment unless it's something I think I can bring value to. At the moment, I can't review anything that I can't go out and fly. It's not easy to. I can't. It's really hard to put together content on something that's very much the same. Take that T14, whatever that bloody was. It's an okay radio. I don't really see what I can say about it. It's going to end up being amazing. They may as well pay me because it'll end up being a sponsored read. Because what can you say? What can you say that you can't see from an image? I could review that radio from the image. Apart from what Wes said, that it's a bit better on the button. But other than that, there's a few frames coming out which I've turned down for review because I'm a bit blown out by frame reviews now. People seem to expect you to fly every single one and give an opinion on how it's better than the previous one. And you're just like, 90%, I said this last week, 90% of what you need to know about a frame, you can learn from putting it together. The rest of it, no frames fly bad. Some of them crash bad, but they don't fly bad. So I've sort of said, look, I don't really know what I can do on frames. I think we're in a holding pattern for what comes next. Very apparent in your last couple of reviews. Well, it's a thing that does the thing good. It's very hard to put, if you take frames very specifically. Let's not talk about frames. If we take hardware, there's been way too much hardware coming in that is using up copious amounts of time just to get the review ready. And what I mean by that is it doesn't work. And I'm spending fucking huge amounts of time trying to get it to work. And that is becoming tiresome in FPV. And I was very clear on the CaddX review. What I was sent was a pre-release product that, look, pre-release comes with ups and downs. You get it early, but it might not work. But if you're going to review it, you can't really review a pre-release product. You can't review a pre-release product. You can showcase it. You can say, this is what they've told me. But what you can't do is say, this is how it's going to be. And if you look at my Goggles X review, I left in the issue on purpose that they said they'd fixed in firmware because I didn't have that firmware. And I can't say, or can't just not say it, not knowing if it's actually been fixed. You have to be honest. And as I was on the Moonlight video, this thing has a bunch of issues. This thing also isn't what you're going to get. Therefore, I can't review it. I can't recommend it. You can't recommend something that you haven't tested. And with frames, it gets difficult because, you know, I think, as I've said, I fundamentally believe the most you need to learn about a frame is on the bench, not in the air. You will see all of the pitfalls of a frame on the bench. Once it's together, you might not see them. So if you take a bind and fly, you don't really see all of the potential future issues because you've not put it together. So there is a certain level of, look, this is how it comes, and there's a lot we don't know about. Whereas on a frame build, it can be a lot of work to sit there and say, yeah, it's all right. Just reading down the chat. High SWR can be detrimental to deliver power. Rick, you'd be shocked how many FPV antennas are over 3 to 1. Is 04 need a heatsink? I suspect so. Rick LeBanc, SWR over 2.1. You'd be shocked how many FPV antennas are over 2.5 to 3. You'd be astonished how many FPV antennas have very high SWR. I was when I started testing them. 3-inch 6S build. Yeah, sounds a lot of fun. Definitely sounds a lot of fun. Damn Taxman. Yes. Yes, that time of year for sure. That's why I stopped watching Davis guy. It wasn't too long ago. Yeah, not everything's great. Some stuff's shit. And that is the way it is. Some stuff is just fucking junk and should never have been made. And is a complete waste of plastic, silicon, or time. I never forget when Steve said about the new 14th gen series Intel, which was, this was a complete waste of sand. And that's one of my favorite comments. And yeah, I made a very strong commitment to back out of reduce the amount of reviews I've been doing, and I intend to do that. It's going to take some time because I have a pipeline to get through. However, don't get me wrong, all the big stuff we'll be covering. But what I don't want to be doing all the time is talking about this frame or this, you know, here's an, you know, look, if you take last year, Speedy B released some really nice frames, the Master Vision 2. Is it exciting? Not really. If you want a channel that's based on reviews, then I was never a channel about reviews, and I ended up, and I love doing reviews, but there's a balance. And what I've learned is it takes its toll, and it takes its toll on me, and it takes its toll on my time. And I am a bit jaded right now. If I'm honest, I am a little bit jaded after a very busy period of fucking shit that doesn't work as it should. And I'm pissed off, and I'm fed up, and I'm bloody annoyed. And I am not here to become manufacturers' playthings when it comes to, hey, we're going to send you a product. Oh, but use another firmware update. Oh, but use another firmware update. Oh, but use another firmware update. And then everything I've done is out the window. And that really has wound me up. And I've had to be very careful what I say, because some of these brands are good, some of these brands are not so good. And they need to sort their shit out, because I ain't playing ball. And actually, I'm really pleased with the stance I've taken, because it has got results. And what I can't tell you yet, and you won't see it yet, but we need more people to do it. They are already realizing they can't get away with this now. And off the result of that, I'm seeing attitudes and things change. So it needs that it doesn't, you know, if it's pre-release, we now have to be very clear. Very, very clear that it's pre-release. And look, the reality is it's a smaller problem than it probably is being made out to be as well. But it's made a number of videos very, very difficult. How I even got out that Moonlight video, I don't know. And I'm not happy with it. It's not a video I'm pleased about. It's not a video that was finished. And I'm also very frustrated at the weather. And I only like to put out content that I'm happy with, not that I'm forced to do because of a release schedule. And it's just becoming more and more difficult to put a piece of content together when you get it and it doesn't work. And actually, this is, before I wrap up, this is actually one of the reasons I've been enjoying the 3D printer reviews a little bit, because they do work. You know, look, I know there's a whole host of problems with 3D printing. That's just a reality. But you don't get the 3D printer turn up, right? And it won't, it overheats because of the firmware's bad, or the display doesn't work properly because the firmware was bad, or, you know what I mean? The product works, and we've not even had that. This is the absolute madness of the situation. Products literally have been turning up, and it is like, oh, it's going to have all these features. When? And you're like, in the future. Here's an example. Goggles X, where's the freaking app? That's all I'm going to say. Goggles X, where's the app? Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, where's the app? Where is it? We're already nearly the end of January. What are we today? 21st. Time's rolling on. Where's the app? And yes, so if I sound down, I'm just a little bit annoyed and jaded at certain companies, and I'm trying to hold my tongue. Where's the Zoom? There's an example, Chris. You know, and look, they're getting away with too much, and I have no intention of being the person that allows that. There's some really good stuff in all of these products, but be under no illusion, there is a huge amount that needs resolving, and I will continue to do what I've always done, is hold these companies to account. Oh, I'm going to start refusing to review their products. Because the one thing these people don't realize is if they think I actually give a toss about day one views, they're mad, because I don't. I never have. You know, I am privileged that the channel has grown to the stage where people support us whatever we do. And if a manufacturer doesn't, and look, it's really important to be part of a day one release. You always want to, but come on. Stop bloody developing the product in the review cycle. That's the big issue. Have it ready, then push it to review. Right. I'm going to wrap it there. I want to say a big thank you for you all spending some time with me tonight. We will be back again, same time, same place next week. Thank you to everyone who has donated the Super Chats tonight. Massive thank you from me. For those of you who don't know, we do have a Patreon. We do have a Discord server. We have FPV Wiki. Please do go check them out. Stay safe. Look after yourself. We'll be back again, same time, same place next week. And I will speak to you soon.